You're looking at Earth's oceans. They cover 71% of our planet's surface. But did you know that large parts of these oceans are actually off-limits? They're called restricted ocean zones or marine protected areas. But here's the thing. What happens in these restricted zones doesn't stay there. It affects all of us. Today, we're diving deep into these mysterious underwater realms to uncover their secrets and why they matter for the future of our planet. Before we dive too deep, let's understand what restricted ocean zones really are. When we talk about restricted ocean zones, we're often referring to what scientists and conservationists call marine protected areas, or MPAs. Think of these as underwater national parks, areas set aside for conservation, research, and sometimes limited human activity. Now you might be wondering, why do we need to protect parts of the ocean? Isn't it all just water? Oh, if only it were that simple. The ocean is a complex tapestry of ecosystems, each playing a crucial role in the health of our planet. MPAs come in various shapes and sizes, from small coastal reserves to vast swathes of open ocean. Some allow limited fishing or tourism, while others are completely off-limits to human activity. Let's start our journey in the shallows, where sunlight still penetrates the water, illuminating one of the ocean's most spectacular sights, coral reefs. They're bustling metropolises of marine life, home to a quarter of all ocean species, despite covering less than 1% of the ocean floor. Many of the world's most important coral reefs are now protected areas, and for good reason. Take the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, for instance. This massive structure is visible from space and is home to over 1,500 species of fish, 400 types of hard coral, and countless other organisms. But here's the kicker. It's also incredibly fragile. In restricted reef zones, scientists are witnessing a battle for survival. Climate change is causing ocean temperatures to rise, leading to a phenomenon called coral bleaching. Imagine if the buildings in your city suddenly started turning white and crumbling. That's essentially what's happening to these underwater metropolises. But it's not all doom and gloom. In these protected areas, researchers are making incredible discoveries. They're finding corals that are more resilient to temperature changes and developing techniques to help reefs recover. Some scientists are even creating 3D printed coral structures to provide new homes for reef dwellers. The restrictions in these areas mean less pollution, no destructive fishing practices, and minimal human interference. It's like giving the reef a chance to catch its breath and heal. And the results can be astounding. In some protected reefs, fish populations have bounced back by over 400%. As we descend deeper, the light begins to fade, and we enter what scientists call the mesophotic zone, or the twilight zone of the ocean. This is where things start to get really interesting. Ranging from about 100 to 500 feet deep, this zone is too deep for traditional scuba diving, but not quite in the realm of the deep sea. Many restricted ocean areas extend into this twilight realm, and for good reason. It's a frontier of marine science, full of species and ecosystems we're only just beginning to understand. One of the most exciting discoveries in restricted mesophotic zones is the presence of deep coral reefs. Yes, you heard that right. Corals that live in the twilight. These deep reefs might serve as refuges for species struggling in shallower waters affected by climate change. In some protected mesophotic areas, scientists have discovered coral gardens, vast stretches of seafloor covered in colorful corals, sponges, and other invertebrates. These areas are hotspots of biodiversity, often home to species found nowhere else on Earth. The restrictions in these zones are crucial because these ecosystems are incredibly slow-growing and vulnerable. A single pass of a trawling net could destroy centuries of growth. By keeping these areas off-limits, We're preserving living museums of evolution and adaptation. Now, let's plunge even deeper into the realm of perpetual darkness, the deep sea. This is where some of the most stringent ocean restrictions are in place, and for good reason. The deep sea is the largest habitat on Earth, yet we've explored less than 5% of it. It's often said that we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the deep ocean floor. In these inky black depths, life takes on forms that defy imagination. There are fish with transparent heads, squids longer than a school bus, and worms that live in tubes of ice. The pressure here is crushing, hundreds of times greater than at the surface. And the only light comes from bioluminescent creatures, creating a living light show in the darkness. Many deep-sea restricted zones are set up around hydrothermal vents, cracks in the ocean floor where superheated water rich in minerals bursts out. These vents support entire ecosystems that don't rely on sunlight at all. Instead, they're powered by chemosynthesis, where bacteria convert chemicals from the vents into energy. It's like finding a city thriving in the heart of a volcano. In some restricted deep-sea areas, scientists have discovered whale falls, the sunken carcasses of whales that support entire ecosystems for decades. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet for deep-sea creatures, with different species showing up as the whale decomposes over time. These rare events provide a vital source of nutrients in the nutrient-poor deep sea. Not all restricted ocean zones are fixed in one place. Some of the most fascinating protected areas are actually mobile, designed to safeguard the great ocean wanderers, migratory species like whales, sea turtles, and certain fish. Imagine an underwater highway system spanning thousands of miles across open ocean. These are the migratory corridors used by species like the great white shark, leatherback sea turtle, and humpback whale. Many of these routes are now protected, with restrictions on fishing and shipping during key migration periods. One of the most incredible examples is the Palau National Marine Sanctuary. This tiny island nation has protected over 80% of its maritime territory, an area about the size of California. This massive protected zone serves as a critical corridor for tuna, sharks, and other migratory species. These protected corridors are like wildlife crossings over a highway, but on an oceanic scale. They provide safe passage for species that play crucial roles in maintaining the health of multiple ecosystems across vast distances. Our journey through restricted ocean zones isn't just about nature, it's also about human history. Scattered across the ocean floor are time capsules from our past, shipwrecks, sunken cities, and other submerged archaeological sites. Many of these are now protected areas, off limits to all but a select few researchers. These underwater museums offer a unique glimpse into history. Unlike sites on land, which are exposed to the elements and human interference, many underwater sites are remarkably well preserved. The cold, dark waters of the deep ocean can act like a natural preservative, protecting artifacts for centuries. Take, for example, the wreck of the Titanic. Located about 13,000 feet deep in the North Atlantic, the site is now protected by an international agreement. It's not just about preserving a famous shipwreck, it's about respecting a grave site and learning from a pivotal moment in maritime history. In the Mediterranean, restricted zones protect entire sunken cities, like Pavlopetri off the coast of Greece. This Bronze Age settlement, submerged for thousands of years, offers archaeologists a snapshot of daily life from over 5,000 years ago. In some cases, the restrictions on these sites have led to surprising discoveries. For instance, the protected waters around World War I and World War II shipwrecks in Scapa Flow, Scotland, have become a haven for marine life. These unintentional sanctuaries now host thriving ecosystems, from colorful anemones to schools of fish seeking shelter among the remnants of human conflict. As we near the end of our journey through restricted ocean zones, let's surface in some of the most exciting areas: dedicated marine research zones. These are areas set aside specifically for scientific study, where access is limited to researchers and their support teams. Think of these as the ocean's equivalent of clean rooms in high-tech factories. By strictly controlling human presence, scientists can study marine ecosystems with minimal outside interference. This is crucial for understanding natural processes and the long-term effects of global phenomena like climate change. One of the most famous marine research zones is the Palmyra Atoll in the Pacific Ocean. This remote atoll, about 1,000 miles south of Hawaii, is off-limits to the public. Here, scientists are conducting groundbreaking research on coral reef ecosystems, climate change impacts, and the intricate food webs of tropical marine environments. One fascinating example comes from the Cabo Pulmo Marine Park in Mexico. This once overfished area was protected in 1995 and became a scientific research zone. Over 20 years, researchers documented an incredible 460% increase in fish biomass, one of the most remarkable recoveries ever recorded in a marine ecosystem. In another research zone off the coast of California, scientists made a startling discovery. Whale falls can support over 200 species of marine life, with some organisms found nowhere else on Earth. This knowledge is reshaping our understanding of deep-sea ecology and the interconnectedness of marine ecosystems. Now, you might be wondering, how do we actually keep these areas restricted? It's not like we can build a fence in the middle of the ocean, right? Well, protecting these zones is a complex task that combines high-tech solutions with good old-fashioned human vigilance. Modern marine protection relies on a suite of technologies. Satellites orbiting in the sky can track ship movements and detect illegal fishing activities even in the most remote areas. Both aerial and underwater drones are used to patrol protected areas, gathering data and spotting intruders. Underwater microphones can pick up the sound of boat engines or even fishing gear, alerting authorities to unauthorized activities. But technology is only part of the story. Many restricted ocean zones rely on the dedication of human guardians, marine park rangers, Coast Guard personnel, and even local communities who take pride in protecting their waters. In some areas, like the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park, indigenous communities play a crucial role in enforcement, combining traditional knowledge with modern conservation practices. It's a beautiful example of how protecting our oceans can also preserve cultural heritage. Enforcing these restrictions isn't just about catching bad guys. It's also about education and outreach. Many marine protected areas have visitor centers, educational programs, and citizen science initiatives that help people understand why these restrictions are in place and how they benefit both marine life and human communities. One innovative approach is the use of virtual dives, high-definition video tours of restricted areas that allow people to experience these underwater wonders without physically entering the protected zones. It's like having a window into another world, fostering a sense of connection and stewardship even for those who never set foot in the ocean. From the vibrant coral cities near the surface to the alien landscapes of the deep sea, these zones offer a glimpse into what our oceans could be, teeming with life, balanced, and resilient. They're nature's way of showing us what's possible when we step back and let ecosystems thrive. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel